Have you ever traced your family tree only to find yourself puzzled by complicated relationships that seem to loop back on themselves? I hope you didn't. In today's talk, we're going to explore how one can avoid the dreaded family tree circle with the help of fascinating mathematical tool, zigzag persistence. But to make things more fun, we'll be drawing examples from the TV series Once Upon a Time, a show that thrives on tangled family dynamics and intertwined timelines. Join me as we combine cutting-edge math with a bit of fairy tale magic to ensure your family tree stays a tree and not a loop. Once Upon a Time is a fantasy drama television series that aired from 2011 to 2018, captivating viewers with its unique blend of fairy tales and real-world drama. Created by Edward Kitsis and Adam Horowitz, the show revolves around the small town of Storybrooke, Maine, where fairy tale characters live unaware of their true identities due to a curse cast by the evil queen, Regina. The central character, Emma Swan, discovers that she's the long-lost daughter of Snow White and Prince Charming, and that is her destiny to break the curse and restore the memories of the town residents. Family relationships are at the heart of Once Upon a Time, often becoming complex and overlapping due to curses, and alternate realms, or time travel. For instance, Regina, the evil queen, turns out to be both a stepmother to Snow White and an adoptive mother to Henry, who is Emma's son. Such tangled family dynamics create a rich tapestry of interconnectedness where characters' roles shift over time, echoing the show's larger themes of redemption, love, and identity. Throughout its 7 seasons, Once Upon a Time gained a devoted fan base thanks to its ability to breathe new life into familiar stories while offering surprising twists and emotional depths. Its portrayal of complex, evolving relationships, especially within families, provides a perfect backdrop for exploring how real-world genealogies can sometimes get just too complicated. As we can see, the relationships in this TV series are extremely tangled. As the character of Captain Hook once said, if you stay in this town long enough, you realize everyone is related. And we can kind of clearly see that in this picture, which is composed of all of the relationships through all the seasons of the series. In order to analyze how relationships in the series change over the seasons, we'll create family trees for each season individually. For example, Regina is the daughter of Cora and Henry. At one point, she marries Leopold, who is Snow White's father, and Snow White later has a daughter called Emma with Prince Charming, and then Emma has a son named Henry. This brings us to the first cycle in our tree. The huntsman, Graham, is in a romantic relationship with both Regina and Emma. Here we can see that in this case, Graham is the reason for the appearance of the cycle in the relationship tree. But he's played by Jamie Dornan, so we can kind of let that slide. Fortunately, spoiler alert, Graham is killed, which removes this cycle from the family tree in the following seasons. However, as more characters and introduced, new cycles emerge. We learn that Belfire is actually Henry's father, and Belfire's mother had been in a relationship with Captain Hook, who is now dating Emma. Meanwhile, Belfire is in a relationship with Tamara, who is secretly involved with Owen, who's also known as Greg, whose father was romantically linked with Regina. So by the end of the season 2, we encounter 2 distinct cycles. In season 3, some of the characters' relationships change once again, and we discover that Regina has a half-sister, Zelina, who, just like their mother, was romantically involved with Rumpelstiltskin. This connection brings in more complexity. Additionally, Cora's entanglement with her children's future partners create further complications, as we learn that Leopold, who was with both Cora and Regina, adds another layer to the web of relationships. Season 4 brings a slight shift away from the series' main characters that we met through seasons 1 till 3, as the show enters the era of Frozen Fever. However, Arendelle is not free from its own unsettling relationship dynamics. It turns out that the two sisters of Elsa and Anna's mother had been romantically involved with the same man, adding to the narrative another complicated family connection. In season 5, the tangled relationships of the main characters return in full force. Regina begins a relationship with Robin Hood, while Zelina has a child with him. Zelina also forms a relationship with Hades, and we learn that Snow White had been involved with Hades' nephew, Hercules. This new relationship continued to complicate the family trees we're building. By season 6, the family tree finally starts to resemble a tree in the traditional sense, without the loops and complications we saw earlier. For a brief moment, we have a family tree that looks like it should. A tree. However, this respite doesn't last long. In the final 7th season, relationships become more convoluted than ever. Henry becomes the father of Cinderella's daughter, and Cinderella is in a relationship with Nick, who turns out to be Hansel from the Hansel and Gretel story. To further complicate matters, Hansel's father was romantically linked with Zelina, creating yet another cycle in our family tree. Even though we call this a family tree, it's not really a tree in the graph sense. So to describe it more as a graph, we would like to change those weird edges into something more regular. So to avoid additional cycles, we can change this structure by connecting each parent to only one child and linking the children through a path. This transforms the family tree into a graph that doesn't loop back on itself, like in the example. By applying this method to each season, we can create graphs for all 7 seasons and begin to examine how the presence of cycles in these graphs evolves over time. We would like a method that would allow us to visualize how relationships shift from season to season and how loops in the family tree appear and disappear through the series. Visualizing these graphs helps us go beyond simple statistics, which don't always give us the full picture. We are more interested in the shape of the data than anything else. So, as we can see, just the statistics wouldn't give us a lot, since they are the same for all of those point clouds in the picture. So in case to capture the nuance of the relationships, we would some more topological methods to get the shift dynamics between those family trees. One of the key challenges in applying algebraic topology to statistical data is that the traditional invariants like Betti numbers or the fundamental groups are highly sensitive to discontinuities in the data. These invariants lack robustness when faced with minor changes. However, persistent homology is a powerful tool that tackles this issue effectively. Persistent homology allows us to analyze a point cloud which represents the data. After filtering the data to remove noise, we select the vertices and construct simplicial complexes on them according to a specific rule. As we adjust the coarseness of the filtration, we generate a nested family of complexes that ranges over from a set of discrete points to a complete simplex. Here we can observe an example graph, an example of its filtration using the Vieteri-Sirup's complex, and in the upper right corner the persistence diagram. For the first homology group, we can see that in the 0 step we have no cycles. In the first step we have 2 holes, which are also visible in the second step. In the third one the right hole closes, and the fourth one both holes are closed. So in the persistence diagram we have 2 points that are born in 1, and then one of those holes dies in 3 and the other one joins it in 4. A limitation of the standard persistent homology approach is that it requires each simplicial complex to be a subset of the next one. This means that at every stage we can only add new simplices to the previous complex. However, in temporal graphs like our family trees in Once Upon a Time, we don't really have this feature. Fortunately, we can overcome this limitation with zigzag persistence, which allows us for inclusions that can point in any direction at each stage. So, having our family trees, let's name them K with indices. Then we can just take the unions of the 2 graphs, so K0 and K1, and build a zigzag this way. To illustrate this, we can use this example of a zigzag filtration on the left, and we can track the changing topology of the complexes. So if we consider just the cycles, you can see that one cycle is born in K0.1 and then it dies when we get to K1. So that's the blue dot. And then if we look at the connected components, we have 2 connected components at the very beginning, and then they are connected into one connected component, and we have one connected component to the very end. So this little vertex is the connected component that is born at 0 and then dies at 0.5, so the lower square, and then the other connected component that is present through the whole zigzag is the green square at the top of the plot. Now we can return to the graphs that we made for each season, and we know that we would like to get the unions of them. And in this way we get graphs from this slide. The common part of the neighboring graphs is colored in black, and then whatever is present in just one of the graphs stays the color of the graph. And now by connecting all of the graphs we can create a zigzag. That is, we start from the top left and we have the graph for the first season, then the graph including the first and second season, then the graph for the second season, then the graph connecting the second and the first season, and then the third season, and so on and so forth, up until we get to the graph of the season 7. Here some may wonder about the graph connecting the third and the fourth season, because the entire upper part is in black And we can see that in the 4th season we don't have any cycles in the main characters part. However, this is the result of the fact that we only color vertices, not edges. So the characters stay the same, we just get rid of the edges as we progress. And now for zigzag we can get zigzag barcode. From this barcode we can clearly tell that up until the 6th season there is always at least one cycle in our family tree. What is more, the cyclicity born in the 1st season doesn't really die up until the 4th one. And if we count the bars in the barcode, we can tell that there are at least 10 distinct there are 10 distinct cycles in the family tree, so that means that there are at least 10 different relationships that shouldn't really be there. Through our exploration of Once Upon a Time and the relationships between its characters, we've seen how zigzag persistence can be applied to uncover the intricate dynamics of evolving family trees. By transforming the family tree into a graph, we can track how relationships evolve over time and they identify cycles as they emerge and dissolve. And while Once Upon a Time may thrive on its cyclical connections, zigzag persistence ensures that in the real world, your family tree can stay rooted in structure, not chaos. Thank you very much for watching.